I will be chairing the meeting. We're Lang, before, and so I will call this meeting to order. And we have two items on this agenda. And first is concerns of modification of the 2023-24 academic calendar. And so I will entertain a motion.
Motion to modify the 2023-2024 academic calendar to include a recess day on April 8th, 2024.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So motion by Adam, second by Eldred. So discussion, questions?
I mean, I just want to say that I asked around quite a bit on schools every day organically because of my children. And it was really interesting to hear, you know, the comments because it's, the staffing issue is very much real anyway. We hadn't heard that this year about, you know, how short-staffed they are, but for Northeast Elementary, I think they said one day they had 18 people gone. But I might have that wrong because that seems wild to me, but at any rate, another thing that was really interesting is to hear that an issue that is always difficult is that when you have ESPs and aides and one-on-one support and they fall off, they're rarely replaced. And these are the kids that need the support the most. So to think of April 8th as being a day where we send students to school without the staff they need to be safe doesn't seem okay. But I also want to add, you know, just hearing people talk, and this has just been such an interesting hot topic everywhere I go. You know, I think that a lot of us forget that a lot of caregivers don't get paid time off. They don't have family in town to help support them. And, you know, as a board, we know that a lot of students, the only balanced meals they get are at school. The school is a safe place for them. And so, you know, weighing these things, you saw it here in a public session and it took a lot. And it did take a week to decide, even though we wanted to give notice, because it is not an easy decision. And we take it very seriously. And so with that, I just, you know, I don't think anyone necessarily wins. It's a historic day, and maybe in the future we can flag these a little more and think about them more, knowing the turmoil this caused. But I'm glad we're at least got a couple weeks in advance. Thanks.
I guess I would like to say, well, just a couple of things briefly that, that when this first came up, I expressed in our meeting last week a lot of concern about just what Erin mentioned, caregivers being able to find care for their children if their children were out of school. That remains a concern for me. But, you know, we've gotten a lot of comments that we should have addressed this earlier. However, there are a lot of things that have changed over the months that other districts were considering and acting upon closing. And I've certainly just really recently become aware of a lot of the factors that were not apparent a while back, have become apparent. And one of them has to do with student safety. And so it occurs to me, you know, this is difficult, but for the school district, if we were to remain open, our people who are working in the schools and planning for what happens in the schools would have to consider the needs and the very varied needs of many different people, from students to staff and their particular circumstances. And as opposed to that, individual families who this creates a problem for if we close, will, they have far fewer things, though challenging, to have to consider about how to handle what happens on that day. So as much as I feel concerned about this closure, there's a number of people who have helped me become aware of factors that I wasn't aware of before last week. Anything else? Eldred. Eldred just.
Like Maura said, I'm educating myself on this phenomenon more since that first meeting. I have to tell you, I wasn't aware that the scope of this event is going to cover such a significant populated part of our country that we won't see anything like this again, maybe in many of our lifetimes. And it's a total eclipse, not a lunar eclipse. It's not a partial eclipse. There were times in our history when culturally this would mean many significant things for many groups of people. So people here smarter than me can talk about the impact on schools, education. Should we have planned? Will we plan? How will we incorporate this into education? I'm not even speaking about that. I'm speaking about how this is going to impact this entire country, this single event, which again, we won't see for quite some time. And it's important. I just think it's important to state that again and to recognize.
I've read the comments. I too have spoken with people. And I simply can't agree that we should change a calendar 2 weeks before. We provide a safe environment. We provide, I think, a very healthy and exciting environment for children. And I've worked with my colleagues in this district long enough to think that we can do it short-staffed. And I think people who want to take their children or other people's children to this event should do that. But I think we need to keep our schools open. And so I'm not changing my mind on that.
Can I ask a question? So last week we had some estimates about our staffing that we might experience that day. Do we have any updates relative to that?
Sure, I can provide some information. And if I may offer a comment, since I have the mic, I want the community to make sure they hear me when I say this. And I'm not asking for any empathy or sympathy here, but whenever I make a decision or part of a decision to close schools on a day when we're supposed to be in, it breaks my heart and I struggle. It's why superintendents don't sleep at night most of the year. Because when school is not open on a day we're supposed to be open or by the academic calendar, people don't eat and they don't get paid. And there are safety issues. So I've been clear since last spring when we started this dialogue around this particular day, my wishes to stay in session. And I got to underscore, this has been a conversation amongst my colleagues across the region and the state. And in our region, we made a decision to stay open on this day, knowing the challenges, knowing the constraints, et cetera. We've worked on developing teaching and learning. We've worked on the teaching and learning that would take place on this day. We've gone so far as to purchase glasses to make sure folks are safe. So I just want to be clear, where I've been and where we have been, because we have been engaged in this conversation for more than a year. And as this board has done so expertly, when there are emerging issues and topics, we discuss them. This has changed. Things have changed. Many of the same superintendents and school districts who had vowed to stay open are now closed because of the community pressures and because of the challenges around staffing, which have, as Aaron has said, has always been a challenge, but will be exacerbated on this particular day for obvious reasons. That is just fair and just accurate to say. So many districts across our region and state have reversed course and have closed. And we are now grappling with this because of the rest of the region closing and question. I've been inundated, let's be clear, about 850 plus emails to me with varying opinions on what I and we should do. And they started about a month ago. So we needed to talk about this. And this is why we're here, because I've gotten a couple of emails the last couple of days of why this all of a sudden we're talking about it, or did you not think about it? But no, that is just not true. And I understand the inequities too. Now, with that being said, we have over, and this is not about any particular bargaining unit, any particular educator in our school district, but I will say that we have over 60 educators who have already planned to be off on that day. Educators, I'm not saying that any particular unit, and this is not me throwing anyone under the bus, that's just a reality. And that's something for us to grapple with. That is a fact. So folks won't be here, unlike any other time before. And again, as Mr. Harris said, this is an unprecedented event. Had I known this would be the issue, we probably would have made different decisions last year. But because it's the first time in my life I've seen this or experienced this, we are here today. So I just wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity. Over 60 educators we know of. And I've heard informally today, based on surveys and other conversations folks are having, that number's going to rise. Now, that may not be true, but I've heard that anecdotally, and I just would offer that up as well. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have one follow-up question based on what you said, Dr. Brown, about the glasses. How, and this might be a whole separate issue, so we can mention it in table, vote, talk later, but have the glasses were postponed, was my understanding?
Ms. Verba, somebody help me out with it. The glass purchase has been postponed, but we can restart it and we're confident we could get them in, but we did postpone the order.
And we were informed at the last meeting, if we do not have school that day, we would be audited for the glasses because they're a gift of public funds. And I wonder if something we can consider as a board is how bad would that be if we flagged that and said, yes, we did do this because we're thinking about the safety of the students on that day. I just, we're talking about safety issues, looking at the sun. We were planning to buy them anyway. It's an educational purpose. Is making the exception by the board something that's possible, and how bad would that be?
Which, no doubt, we could make some adjustments. And I've been here long enough to see us give books to young people that were considered gifts of public funds. So we can do it. It would just be up to us to make that decision.
I think another issue, Aaron, is not just the glasses. They're used with supervision. I think we could be running a huge risk with just handing them out and not providing appropriate supervision for how they're used. You can't just hand them to, 5,000 K to
Though,
12th graders and say, go look at the sun. It doesn't.
though elementary students, if we were going to give them to elementary school students, they'd be out of school already when they would need to use them. So they wouldn't be under our supervision,
No matter what.
no
Yeah.
matter what.
Yeah.
I didn't think we were ever going to give them to students. I thought we were going to have them use them.
No,
I-
they look like 3D glasses.
Yeah.
They're not, I assume, because that's the kind I look, they look like 3D glasses, they can be tossed, they're not overly expensive. So just throwing that out there.
Okay, I think we're ready to call the question. So on the motion to modify the 2023-2024 academic calendar to include a recess day on April 8th, 2024. All in favor? Opposed? That includes everyone. Thank you. The motion passes. We have one other brief item of business, a personnel report. Can I get a motion on the personnel report?
I move to approve the personnel report as presented.
Second.
Moved by Karen, seconded by Aaron. Any questions? All in favor? That's everybody. Okay, that's it. So I will close this meeting, and there is another meeting of the Finance Committee that is about to commence.